made you believe that being seen was something you had to earn, that worth was a reward, that love was a performance. And so, like a desperate actor on an endless stage, you danced for applause. You smiled through the pain. You overgave. You overextended. You bent until you were unrecognizable, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally choose you. But you were never meant to audition for love. The sickness of modern validation is this. You begin to believe that invisibility is your fault. You think you're too quiet, too intense, too cold, too much. But what if the real problem is that you're not for everyone? What if you were never meant to be? That's the truth they've hidden from you. You were never meant to be understood by the masses. You were never built to be easy to access. You were never forged to be convenient. You are the uncommon. You are the rare. You are the storm that doesn't speak until it breaks everything in its path. And for that, you've been taught to apologize. No more. Mastering inner rarity. Your value does not scream. It does not compete. It does not plead for recognition. It simply exists. And yet, in your desperation to be seen, you've betrayed yourself. You gave your magic away at clearance prices, thinking love would come faster if it was easier to consume. You've handed your worth to people who couldn't see past their own projections. And then you asked, why do they treat me like an option? Because you acted like one. Because you traded depth for attention. Because you forgot that the rarest things on earth are hidden, protected, sacred. You want to be seen as rare? Then stop offering yourself like you're common. Stop lowering your price to fit into broken wallets. Stop dimming your light so their insecurities can breathe. Stop confusing being wanted with being valued. There is no dignity in desperation. There is no respect in availability. And there is no power in waiting to be picked when you were born crowned. You think silence makes you invisible, but it's the very thing that makes people lean in. Because silence from someone who knows their worth is louder than 1,000 cries for attention. The power of strategic detachment. Here's what they won't tell you. Love that needs to be earned is manipulation. Validation that requires performance is slavery. And the moment you hand your worth to another, you give them the knife to destroy you. You think they don't see your value? Oh, they see it. They're just hoping you don't. Because the moment you do, you'll become too expensive to exploit. You don't become powerful by clinging. You become powerful by detaching. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Detachment is not a wall. It is a throne. When you no longer need them to see you, they become desperate to understand you. When you stop proving, they start chasing. When you stop explaining, they start wondering. They call you hard to read, distant, unreachable. Good. Let them drown in the mystery of your silence. Let them ache for the connection they used to take for granted. Let them sit in the absence that used to be filled by your overexertion. You don't exist to be consumed. You exist to be earned. The sacred art of self-respect. They told you to be agreeable, to be easygoing, to bend for connection. So you did. You shape-shifted into the version of yourself that made others feel secure. You performed softness. You betrayed your depth. And in the process, you became forgettable. Let me tell you the raw truth. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. To be available to everyone is to be respected by no one. Real presence doesn't come from being loud. It comes from energy, from stillness, from rootedness, from walking into a room like you know who the hell you are, even when no one is clapping. They want your presence. but they don't want to earn it. Make them earn it. Make them sit with their inconsistency. Make them wonder why you no longer explain yourself. Make them feel the weight of your absence, like a sword hanging in silence. Your standards are not open for negotiation. Your soul is not up for auction. Your dignity is not currency to trade for affection. You don't need more kindness. You need more boundaries. Energy that commands attention. There is a power that doesn't yell. There is a magnetism that doesn't beg. There is a silence that speaks louder than any scream. You think emotional detachment is cold? It's not. It's mastery. It's knowing how to feel everything and still move with intention. It's being fully alive, but not easily shaken. It's walking through chaos with a steady hand and unblinking eyes. Most people confuse chaos for passion. They think unpredictability is depth. But when you become rooted, truly rooted, your energy becomes untouchable. They can ignore you. They can dismiss you. They can even walk away. But they'll never forget you. Why? Because your energy didn't chase. It didn't collapse. It didn't fold under pressure. It endured. And that endurance becomes unforgettable. You must stop being baited by every trigger. Stop bleeding out emotionally for people who are addicted to your collapse. Stop performing vulnerability for people who cannot hold your truth. Emotional control is not repression. It's self-possession. And self-possession is the foundation of respect. Walking away without fear. They won't respect your presence until they've felt your absence. But most of you are too afraid to leave. Too afraid to be alone. Too addicted to the validation that never lasts. Let them feel your silence. Let them wonder why the door stayed closed. Let them miss what they never appreciated. You are not here to be digested. You are not here to be liked. You are here to lead. And that means walking away. Not in anger, but in honor. Let them call you cold. Let them call you arrogant. Let them call you distant. Their confusion is not your burden. Their inability to meet your standard is not your problem. You do not owe closure to those who only opened you to exploit what they didn't earn. You do not owe softness to those who chiseled you down. The moment you stop negotiating with your pain, the moment you stop begging for clarity, the moment you stop over-explaining your worth, you rise, you ascend, you become the one they speak about in whispers. Not because you tried to be special, but because you remembered that you always were. Replacing pleasing with presence. If you are still trying to be everything to everyone, you are no one to yourself. And that is the greatest tragedy. You were not born to be palatable. You were born to be real. You do not need to dilute your power to be loved. You do not need to wear a mask just to be accepted. Most people want connection, but few can handle intimacy, because intimacy demands depth, and depth demands truth. So let them fall away. Let those who cannot handle your storm run. Let those who want easy access walk toward cheaper thrills. Let those who flinch at your depth crawl back to the shallow. Because the ones who are meant to stand in your fire, they'll stay. Not because you begged, not because you performed, but because they recognized you. And if no one sees it, so what? You see it. And that's the beginning of everything. Lesson 1. Embrace your intrinsic value. Stop performing for love. You were never meant to prove your worth. Not through overgiving, not through shrinking, not through soft smiles that hide rage or applause that masks the pain of invisibility. But here you are, tired, frustrated, and hollow. Because you were taught that love is earned through performance. You were trained to become what others needed, to show up strong when they were weak, to become smaller so others could feel bigger, to speak sweeter so they wouldn't feel your sting. And it worked, at first. You were praised for being agreeable. You were called kind, humble, supportive. But over time, the truth began to crack through the surface. Those same people you tried to please, they started overlooking you. Why? Because you taught them that you were a product, a tool, a mirror, something to be used, not someone to be revered. This is the first betrayal, the betrayal of self in the name of connection. And it is the deepest wound. Because when you begin treating your soul like a resume to be approved, you enter a prison of your own making. You wait for applause to feel worthy. You wait for replies to feel important. You wait for love to feel alive. But the one thing no one ever told you was this: intrinsic value does not wait. It does not seek. It does not bend. It exists. The moment you realize your value is not something to be negotiated, but something to be embodied, the entire game changes. You stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start declaring, "I was always enough." You just weren't qualified to see it. This is the first law of liberation. Stop performing for love. Love that must be proven is not love. Affection that depends on your sacrifice is not connection. And visibility that comes at the cost of your authenticity is not respect. So many people cry out for love while wearing masks. They ask to be seen while hiding their truth. They demand recognition while playing roles that are digestible, marketable, likable. No. What you are looking for will never be found in performance. It will only come through presence. But presence, real presence, requires you to stop running. To stop trying to win people who are committed to misunderstanding you. To stop giving away pieces of yourself in exchange for scraps of acknowledgement. You are not a starving dog begging for a bone. You are the fire. You are the standard. And once you remember that, your entire demeanor changes. You move differently. You speak differently. You enter rooms with your head high, not to be seen, but because you see yourself. So how do we implement this truth? How do you stop performing and start living? You start with small acts of radical truth. 1. Audit your behavior. Write down the things you do daily that are rooted in performance. How many times do you say yes when you want to say no? How often do you edit your words to avoid discomfort? How often do you smile when you're breaking? 2. Create a personal value code. Define what makes you rare, not based on what others say, but based on what you know. Maybe it's your integrity, your intensity, your depth, your calm, your vision. Write it out. Let it guide you like a sacred oath. 3. Practice sacred restraint. Not everything needs to be explained. Not every invitation needs to be accepted. Not every silence needs to be filled. Try saying less. Try doing less when you're feeling pressured to do more. Let them wonder. Let your stillness speak. 4th, stop asking to be chosen. You weren't born to audition for worth. You were born with a crown no one else is qualified to touch. If someone cannot see your depth, it does not mean you are shallow. It means they are unfit to swim. Let them walk. Let them choke on the surface. You are not here to rescue people from their own blindness. You've been fighting to be seen for far too long. It's time to stop screaming in rooms that were never meant to hear you. It's time to stop handing over your worth to those who couldn't hold it if they tried. It's time to rise. Not by becoming louder, not by becoming softer, but by becoming undeniable. The truth is this: you were always enough. The world just taught you to forget, but now you remember. And now that you do, you never perform again. Lesson 2. The power of strategic detachment. Stop chasing, start attracting. There's a moment, a shift, where the pain of chasing finally outweighs the illusion of connection, where you realize your begging, your pleasing, your longing has become a form of emotional enslavement. And in that moment, if you're awake, you stop running. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally remembered who you are. This is the power of detachment. Not bitterness, not indifference, but clarity. Detachment is the sacred discipline of stepping back from the need to be chosen, so you can finally choose yourself. We've been conditioned to believe that to love is to cling, that to care is to overextend, that to value someone means we must prove we are worthy of being kept. So we text again. We wait for replies like starving dogs waiting for scraps. We reread conversations hoping for hidden meaning. We stay up wondering what we did wrong, when the only mistake was handing someone else the pen to write our story. No, you cannot write your own legend if your worth is still waiting to be signed off by someone else. And here's the truth they never told you. The more you chase, the less you're valued. The more accessible you are, the less mystery you carry. The more emotional control others have over you, the more you train them to disrespect your boundaries. They don't walk away because you weren't enough. They walk away because they could. Strategic detachment is the art of unhooking, not because you stopped loving, but because you stopped leaking. You stopped spilling your energy into voids. You stopped breaking your own back just to earn the right to be seen. You stopped making room for people who only showed up when it was convenient. The moment you stop chasing is the moment your value begins to crystallize. Because people don't respect what is easily caught. They respect what walks away without fear. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of playing games. Let them. Their discomfort is the sound of your chains breaking. You are not here to be emotionally available to those who only value you when you're absent. You are not here to explain yourself to people who misread your silence as weakness. You are not here to keep proving your worth to those who are committed to forgetting it. You are here to become whole. And wholeness means you do not pursue what runs. You do not beg what pulls away. You do not water yourself down to be more understandable to people addicted to shallowness. So how do you cultivate this discipline? 1. Recognize the cost of chasing. Every time you pursue someone who doesn't reciprocate, you abandon a part of yourself. Every time you beg for clarity, you reinforce the belief that their opinion is more important than your truth. Track the emotional toll, know the price, and ask yourself, is it worth your peace? 2. Respond from the throne, not the wound. When someone ghosts you, when they pull away, when they disrespect your time or ignore your boundary, don't react, don't explain, don't collapse. Breathe, pause, then act from sovereignty. Act as if you are royalty, not a beggar waiting at the gates. 3. Practice energetic withdrawal. Take 72 hours of silence. No texts, no checking their page, no mental spirals wondering what you did wrong. Just stillness. Let them feel what your absence actually costs. Let them see what happens when your energy is no longer a faucet they can turn on at will. 4. Detach to realign. Create space not to punish them, but to find you, to remember your mission, to hear your own voice, to refill what you gave away too freely. Because without detachment, you will always be a puppet to the emotions of others. You will always be pulled, yanked, baited. And worst of all, you will never command respect. You must become harder to shake. You must become harder to read. Not because you're hiding, but because your peace no longer depends on their reaction. You must become someone who can feel everything and still move with strategy. Someone who can love deeply, but never lose their center. They'll wonder why you didn't respond, why you didn't panic, why you didn't chase. Let them wonder, because now you know the truth. People don't cherish what comes easy. They respect what has boundaries. They value what makes them rise to meet it. They crave what they can't control. Your detachment is not a punishment. It is the re-establishment of power. The power to walk away. The power to say nothing. The power to observe your emotions without being owned by them. And when you step fully into that energy, you become the mystery, the standard, the one they think about at night. Not because you screamed louder, but because you said nothing at all. Because you refused to beg. Because you chose yourself. Because you detached from needing to be chosen and became the one they couldn't forget. Lesson 3. Cultivate unshakable boundaries. Your standards are the gatekeepers of your peace. The world will take and take until you vanish. And then, it will blame you for disappearing. They will call you selfish the moment you stop giving endlessly. They will say you've changed the moment you grow teeth. They will label you difficult the second you begin to enforce your standards. Let them. They do not miss the old you. They miss the version of you that lacked boundaries. They miss the version of you who gave without asking, who broke for everyone and bled without condition. But that version of you, that ghost in a people-pleasing shell, it had to die. Because there comes a time when self-neglect begins to look a lot like self-betrayal. And if you want to reclaim your power, your time, your sanity, then you must learn the sacred art of boundaries. A boundary is not a wall. It is not a punishment. It is not cruelty. A boundary is a signal, a declaration, a final line that says, this is what I allow. This is what I no longer tolerate. This is the gate, and not everyone gets in. No, not everyone deserves access. Not everyone should be allowed to sit at your table. And not everyone is meant to handle the fire that lives inside you. You don't set boundaries because you're bitter. You set them because you're awake. Because you understand now that peace is not found in keeping everyone happy. Peace is found in protecting your energy. Most people don't have bad intentions. They just have bad habits. And when you don't teach them how to treat you, they will act on autopilot. They will take advantage of your kindness. They will test how far you'll bend before you break. They will see how many times they can come back without accountability. And every time you let it slide, every time you say, it's okay, when it's not, every time you stay silent when something inside you is screaming, you teach them that your soul is negotiable, that your presence is cheap, that your worth is bendable. But let me tell you the truth. You don't rise by being agreeable. You rise by being unshakable. When you lack boundaries, here's what happens. You attract the emotionally unavailable because you never make them earn your vulnerability. You attract the selfish because you never require mutual effort. You attract the inconsistent because you never demand consistency. You attract chaos because you never enforce order. People respond to what you allow, and if you tolerate disrespect, you'll keep receiving it. Not because you deserve it, but because you've trained them that there are no consequences. You cannot complain about the way people treat you if you keep offering them the same open door with no guard. So how do you cultivate unshakable boundaries? 1. Identify where peace is leaking. What relationships consistently leave you drained? Where are you saying yes, but feeling no? Who keeps crossing the line, subtly or overtly, and getting away with it? Take inventory, because what you do not confront, you invite. 2. Set the line, clearly, unapologetically. Boundaries don't require essays. They require conviction. I no longer continue conversations that turn disrespectful. I don't allow last-minute cancellations to continue. If you want access to me, it requires consistency. Say it once. Say it calmly. Say it with finality. And most importantly, enforce it. 3. Watch who panics. The moment you start saying no, watch who gets offended. Watch who gaslights you. Watch who withdraws love, attention, or access to punish you. Let them go. Those who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always resist your healing. Practice holding the line, especially when it's uncomfortable. The real test of a boundary is not when it's easy to keep. It's when your heart wants to bend, when you feel lonely, when you want to give them one more chance. That's the moment where you decide who you truly serve, your truth or your trauma. Stand firm. Every time you hold the line, you reclaim a piece of your soul. They will say you're hard to reach now. They will say you've become distant. They will say you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. You're no longer emotionally available to chaos. You no longer provide comfort to those who bring confusion. You no longer tolerate bare minimum efforts wrapped in pretty words. Because now, your presence is a privilege. And only those who respect your soul deserve proximity. Here's the truth. Boundaries are not about keeping others out. They're about keeping yourself intact. You don't owe anyone your time. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone your forgiveness if they weaponize your empathy. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself protection. You owe yourself loyalty. And until you give that to yourself first, no one else ever will. They taught you to keep the peace by pleasing, by folding, by forgiving too quickly. But let me leave you with this. There is no peace in self-abandonment. There is no freedom in being constantly accessible. There is no self-respect in allowing repeated violation. Your standards are the gates. Your boundaries are the guards. And your energy is the kingdom. Protect it like your life depends on it. Because it does. Lesson 4. Command the room with stillness. Let your energy speak first. Power doesn't enter the room screaming. It doesn't need fireworks. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a spotlight to prove it belongs. Power arrives quietly and shifts the atmosphere. You've been told to speak louder, to explain yourself, to prove your worth, to decorate your existence with noise so people don't miss you. But let me tell you something most will never understand. True power is not in what you say, it's in what you carry. And most people are carrying noise, a performance, a desperate need to be perceived, noticed, affirmed. They decorate their hollowness with shiny words. They chase trends hoping to stand out. They make their presence loud so no one sees how little they actually are. You must move differently. Stillness is not absence. Stillness is presence at full volume, without a single wasted word. Stillness is what turns heads without trying. It's what makes people pause mid-sentence. It's what silences a room, not through intimidation, but through reverence. Because stillness tells a story without telling a word. Most people are addicted to attention. They believe that being seen is the highest form of power. But visibility without substance is empty. You don't want to be visible. You want to be felt. You want to be remembered in silence. You want to be respected when you're not around. You want your name spoken with weight, not because you asked for it, but because you became unignorable. And that happens only through depth. Stillness is the language of depth. Stillness is what speaks when everything else stops. So why don't most people operate from stillness? Because it requires self-possession. Because it demands you be rooted in who you are, even when no one is clapping. It's easy to talk when the room praises you. It's easy to be bold when everyone's watching. But can you sit in silence when they ignore you? Can you stand tall when no one validates your effort? Can you hold your ground when the energy gets cold? That's what separates those who crave influence from those who command it. Here's what stillness looks like in real life. You walk into a room and you don't scan for approval. You don't need to speak to fill the silence. You don't shift your tone to be more likable. You don't rush to prove your worth. You let your being do the talking. Because the most powerful people in the room are not the ones trying to convince others. They're the ones who sit so fully in their truth, they make others question their own. You don't flinch. You don't chase. You don't adjust. You embody. So how do you cultivate that kind of energy? 1. Stop explaining your worth. Every time you over-explain yourself, you signal uncertainty. Let people wonder. Let your silence be your answer. Let your actions speak louder than your desperation ever could. 2. Speak less. Mean more. Say only what adds weight. If your words don't cut through noise, don't add to it. Every sentence from you should land like a hammer, not a feather. 3. Develop a calm internal state. Stillness outside begins with discipline inside. Meditation, cold exposure, controlled breathing, emotional control. Your external stillness is only believable if your inner world isn't in chaos. 4. Walk like a weapon. Not because you seek violence, but because you have control over your chaos. Carry yourself with awareness, strength, and quiet intent. Let people feel that your presence is not accidental. It's chosen. Stillness is a threat to the insecure. They will call it arrogance. They will mistake it for aloofness. They will try to bait you into performance. Don't take the bait. They fear your silence because it cannot be controlled. They fear your energy because it forces them to examine their own. Most people are used to noise. They are numb to yelling. They're used to begging, oversharing, overreacting. But stillness breaks patterns. Stillness confronts weakness. Stillness exposes truth. And truth is what makes people lean in. Not noise, not visibility, not theatrics. You must become a presence they feel before you speak. And remember long after you leave. That requires restraint. It requires power. It requires the discipline to be unbothered by silence. Because silence is not empty. It's sacred. Silence is the space where the unprepared unravel, where the over-talkers lose control, where the insecure reveal themselves. But you sit in that silence like a king on the throne, like a queen with no doubt, like a warrior with no fear. Because you're no longer trying to be seen. You've become the vision. And when you've mastered that level of energy, they stop treating you like a guest. They start treating you like the standard. Stillness is not a pause in the noise. Stillness is the voice beneath it all. Train it. Sharpen it. Guard it. Because the day you master stillness is the day you no longer chase influence. You become it. Lesson 5. Stop being an option. Learn the art of walking away without fear. There is no strength in staying where your value is constantly questioned. There is no honor in enduring disrespect under the mask of love. There is no victory in holding on to people who only reach for you when their hands are empty. You have been taught that endurance is loyalty, that suffering is love, that compromise is the price you must pay to be chosen. But that's a lie. A weaponized fairy tale sold to the broken so they stay chained to dynamics that drain them. The truth is this: you are not here to be an option. You are not a backup plan. You are not someone to be remembered when convenience aligns. You are the standard. And anything less than that is a betrayal of the very soul you were sent here to protect. The reason you're not treated like a priority is because you keep staying as an option. You come back too easily. You explain too much. You tolerate too often. You keep hoping they'll change, when the only thing that needs to change is you. They don't respect your presence because they've never felt the weight of your absence. They don't fear losing you because you've made it clear you'll always return. No. You teach people how to treat you not with your words, but with your walk away. When you stay where you're devalued, you teach them that love is cheap, that your soul is for rent, that your standards are up for negotiation, and you will never rise in a space that requires your self-abandonment just to survive. To be clear, this is not about revenge. This is not about ghosting. This is not about playing games. It's about clarity. It's about standing up, stepping out, and never returning to the scene of your own devaluation. You think walking away is weakness. You think it means you failed? No. Walking away is strength refined in silence. Walking away is power realized in solitude. Walking away is the highest form of self-respect. Because it says, I would rather be alone in truth than surrounded by people who mistake my softness for submission. So how do you become the one who walks away without fear? 1. Understand what staying costs you. You lose your sleep. You lose your self-trust. You lose your sense of identity. All in the name of maybe they'll see you differently. They won't. If someone hasn't seen your worth after you've bled to prove it, they are not blind. They are unwilling. 2. Stop asking for clarity. Watch behavior. If they act like you're optional, they've made a choice. And the more you chase answers, the more power you give to the very people who broke you. Let their actions be the answer. Let silence be the response. Let disinterest be the rejection you finally believe. 3. Build your threshold for loneliness. Walking away will be lonely. There will be silence. There will be moments of aching. But aching in peace is better than screaming in confusion. Use the silence. Rebuild your identity in that solitude. Train in the dark until the next version of you doesn't even flinch when they come back. 4. Create an exit code and follow it. When a line is crossed, have a pre-made plan. If I feel unseen more than supported, I leave. If I am breadcrumbed or strung along, I leave. If they ignore my boundaries or mock my standards, I leave. You don't make this decision in the moment. You make it in advance. Because emotion will beg you to stay. Discipline will make you rise. Here's the hard truth. Most won't say out loud. People don't change because you love them harder. They change when they lose the access they never earned. Your staying power is not noble. It's enabling. Your silence is not peace. It's self-erasure. And your loyalty is not love. It's fear wearing a friendly mask. You are not staying because of love. You are staying because of attachment, because of fear, because of the lie that says, if I walk away, I might never be loved again. But what you must ask yourself is this: what's the point of being loved if it requires being destroyed to receive it? You were not born to convince people of your value. You were born to live it. And if that means fewer people around you, so be it. Because when you stop being an option to the world, you become a standard to yourself. The ones who truly see your light will rise to meet it. And the ones who can't, let them fall away. They weren't ready for your level. They weren't qualified to sit at your table. They weren't meant to stay past your awakening. You don't become unforgettable by sticking around. You become unforgettable by leaving when your soul says go. You become unforgettable by walking away without a speech, without drama, without flinching. You become unforgettable when your silence says everything your voice was never allowed to speak. So the next time someone treats you like a placeholder, like a convenience, like a maybe, remember this: you were never born to be an option. You were born to be the reason they remember what power feels like. You were born to walk like your presence is the crown, and to leave like your absence is the lesson. Lesson 6. Replacing pleasing with presence. How to reclaim your energy from the world. You were not born to please. You were not built to be everyone's comfort. You were not created to be digestible, palatable, or agreeable. And yet, somewhere along the way, you became a mirror, a reflection of what everyone else needed you to be. You smiled when it hurt. You agreed when your soul said no. You said it's fine when everything inside of you was burning. Why? Because you were told that being liked meant being safe, that being agreeable meant being accepted, that if you could just earn their approval, you would finally be enough. But the more you pleased, the more you disappeared. And now, you don't even recognize yourself in the silence. This is where it begins. This is where the mask falls off, where the mirror shatters, where the performance ends. This is where you stop pleasing and start living. Because no amount of approval will ever fill the void left by abandoning yourself. You've been tricked, trained to believe that connection requires compromise, that love requires sacrifice, that peace means avoiding discomfort at all costs. But here's the truth they never taught you. You don't earn your place in this world by being convenient. You earn it by being real. Pleasing is survival. Presence is power. And the world feels the difference. People expect the pleaser. They expect you to bend, to make them comfortable, to water down your fire so they don't feel too cold standing next to you. But the moment you stop doing that, something changes. They shift. They pause. They feel the weight of your presence. Because you're no longer shrinking. You're no longer softening your edges to fit into boxes that weren't built for you. You're no longer lowering your standards just to be invited to tables that don't honor your voice. Presence is rare, and that's why people fear it. Because presence is a mirror, not of their expectations, but of their inadequacy. When you stop pleasing, you stop protecting others from the discomfort of your truth. You let the silence speak. You let your boundaries stand. You let your intensity breathe. And you watch who flinches. You watch who withdraws. You watch who panics when they can no longer control you through guilt, shame, or approval withdrawal. Good. Let them. You are not here to carry the burden of their reactions. You are here to become whole. So how do you replace pleasing with presence? 1. Practice being misunderstood. Let them think you're distant. Let them think you're cold. Let them label your silence however they want. That discomfort, that fear of being misjudged, it's the detox from people-pleasing, and you must go through it, without explanation, without apology, without softening your stance. 2. Set standards and enforce them without emotion. Pleasing is emotional. It begs. It explains. Presence is calm. It decides. I no longer respond to chaos. I don't chase indecision. I don't explain my boundaries to those who trample them. Make it clear. Make it simple. Make it final. 3. Stop managing their perception. You've spent years trying to make sure they didn't feel judged, offended, or uncomfortable. But in the process, you lost your voice. Let it return. Not by shouting, but by being rooted. Speak truth without checking their face for approval. 4. Rebuild your identity in silence. Pleasing kept you loud. Presence invites you to be still. Sit in the quiet. Relearn what you like. Relearn what you need. Relearn who you are when no one's pulling at you, asking you to be less, needing you to perform. This is not a surface shift. It is a complete energetic recalibration. Because once you replace pleasing with presence, you'll notice something. People lean in when you speak. People remember you when you leave. People shift around you, not because you demand it, but because your presence now has gravity. And those who only wanted the old you, the one who bent for scraps, they will fall away. Let them. You must get comfortable with disappointing others. Because every time you please them at the expense of yourself, you betray your own throne. You cannot become a standard while living as a mirror. You cannot become rare while begging to be liked. You cannot command respect while still clinging to approval. No. You must burn the costume. You must bury the version of you that only existed for applause. You must rise, not as a pleaser, but as a presence. One that doesn't chase. One that doesn't flinch. One that doesn't break. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the silence where your performance used to be. Because now, you don't need their validation. You don't need their comfort. You don't need their version of who they think you should be. You only need your truth. And when you carry that, you don't just take up space, you redefine it. You become unforgettable, not because you pleased them, but because you reclaimed yourself. To the returning GrimFace warriors, you already know what this is. This isn't a channel. This isn't content. This is warfare, fought in silence, discipline, and unwavering truth. Every view, every moment you've stood with us, every time you've listened and felt the call, that you are more, that you were never meant to kneel. We see you. We honor you. To those who've stepped into the private community, you didn't just support the movement. You became part of it. You chose to stand not in the crowd, but in the arena. And your commitment is what will carry this fire forward. Your loyalty is what gives this movement its teeth. This brotherhood, this sisterhood, this circle of warriors is growing. And with it, the vision sharpens, the mission deepens, the purpose amplifies. And to those watching for the first time, this is your signal. No more sleepwalking through life. No more chasing empty pleasures. No more trading your truth for shallow approval. If you've been searching for something real, a community rooted in discipline, resilience, and purpose, if you felt the weight of this world but still carry the fire to rise, then it's time to march with us. Join the GrimFace movement. Stand shoulder to shoulder with those who refuse to bow. Reclaim your mind. Restore your honor. And resurrect fulfillment through discipline, clarity, and truth. This isn't for everyone. It's for those who are done pretending, done pleasing, done living small. So if that's you, welcome home. We rise together. We walk forward. And we never forget who we are. GrimFace. Until victory and beyond.